said.
But unfortunately, like, so many people are drawn to that. Like, that's obviously they're doing it because monetarily it makes sense, because they're gaining a certain amount of followers just from the fact that people think they're wealthy, and that's a sad thing. Like, so many people are just drawn towards materialistic things and wealth, and that's what they're following.
But I think as well that it comes down to, and I might upset some people here, but it comes down to the parenting, doesn't it? And I know a lot of people, you know, who I speak to people, and they're like, "Well, I didn't get what I wanted when I was a kid, you know.
Yeah.
We didn't get a lot, so whatever my kids want now, they get."
Yeah.
And I understand, you know, you love your kids and you want them to have what you didn't have, but at the same time, you're spoiling them. Yeah. And you literally are, you know, you're spoiling their personality, because you're making them believe that really they don't have to work for anything, they don't have to wait for anything, they don't have to, you know, achieve anything. Basically, what I want, I get, and if I don't get it, I'm gonna make a scene. Yeah, I'm gonna make a scene about it until I do get it. Yeah, and that, I think that's where we've gone now. That's why it's so materialistic, because you've got a generation of kids now who've come from a generation who probably didn't get everything that they wanted, right? Even though their parents probably were giving them more than what they had.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, every generation tries to do better than a generation prior to them. I think as well, everything's so, like the generation now, everything's just so easily accessible. Nothing's got to be worked for. You want to watch something, it's there instant. You want food, it's there at your doorstep instant. You want something delivered, you can have it. Like, in certain places in the UK, you can have it within the next hour.
Yeah. Do you
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's definitely like there's a lot of good things that do come out of the internet. Like, don't get me wrong, it's great to be able to order food to your door. It's great to be able to now and again to put Netflix on, chill out at the end of the hard day. But there's got to be a balance to it, and there's got to be like I very rarely get to watch TV, and in a way, like I would like to actually watch more, but it's quite nice that way, because when I do finally get to watch a little bit of TV, it's like, wow, like you enjoy it that little bit more, and it's like that, and that's how all these things should be used as.
That's how everything
is a
should
treat.
Be. Yeah.
Everything should be used as a treat. You treat yourself to watching a bit of TV after you've carried out your tasks for the day, done your duties, you know, looked after your kids, made sure you've maybe got your exercise in, and you know, worked on yourself, worked on your income, your financial situation or whatever, and then as a treat on the night time or whenever you've got some free time after doing all those jobs, you can then you know, treat yourself to.
It's a well earned, isn't it?
It's like, I mean, I don't drink, but it's like when guys say, "No, there's no beer that tastes better than a beer after a hard day's work."
Definitely,
like
100%.
You know, and it's the same with everything. You know, if you've had a long week at work, right, and you know, and you've just been working like flat out, you've been doing work, you've been coming home, getting the kids sorted, then working again on the night, and then, you know, you've been eating quite well, and you've been training, and you're doing all the right things. Yeah, nothing's better than that takeaway and a movie on a Friday night.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if you're doing it every day,
you're overindulging.
And that's not good for you eating takeaways every day, is it?
There was this. I'll have a look in a second, but there's this guy who's on a book called The Comfort Crisis. Yeah, and he was on another podcast talking about his book, but basically saying that we're addicted to comfort now because life's too comfortable.
It is way.
Do you know what I mean? You get up in your heated house, you go in your car to work. Do you know what I mean? There's no real graft out there. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because there's so many roles now that it's just so comfortable. You sit down, you sit down, you sit down. Yeah. And life has become too comfortable. So you're not earning it anymore.
We need struggle as humans.
Of course you do.
In order for us to continue
to grow,
but continue the species.
Yeah.
Because everything that's been achieved since the beginning of time has been achieved through struggle. Yeah. Through people striving to make life better for the next generation. But I almost feel like now, like, really, how much better can it?
Are we too comfortable?
Is it Jacko Willink who says something like "struggle equals freedom"? He says he's got a saying.
Well, Joe Rogan talks about it a lot, doesn't he? He talks about like how he
puts himself through and that, I think that's so important to do as well. Like, even if it's just doing some sort of physical exercise for 30 minutes a day. Just like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like being comfortable. I like to have, you know, like my house is kept nicely. I like to have a nice sofa. I like to have a nice bed. And I enjoy those things in life, but it's also good as well to put yourself into, even if it's playing football maybe a couple of times a week, doing some training, going for a run, I think you should definitely, make sure you get some time to make yourself uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Cold showers? Are you having? Because you went
cold
through a
showers
the other day. Yeah,
Did you? Yeah. I went through periods. I had a few. Like,
how good do you feel after a cold shower?
Mate, you feel brilliant. It's just getting yourself welled up to go in there in the first place.
And you know what as well? You know what the great thing about struggle is?
Yeah.
When you're struggling, in training or a cold shower, or you're struggling to do something at work.
Yeah.
You're right, it's freedom, because you know what? You forget about everything else.
Of course, yeah.
You forget about all your worries and your troubles and, the bill that needs to be paid, or am I being a good dad or whatever.
Yeah.
And your 100% focus just goes on getting yourself out of that struggle.
Yeah.
And it's liberating. And then after, it almost puts it into perspective of why am I worrying so much about things?
Yeah.
I've just done that. I've come out of it.
Yeah.
I'm still alive.
That's what they say,
I feel
don't
great.
they, about the cold showers. If you can overcome that in the morning, then is anything else in your day?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything like that.
And going back to the kids now, right? Sound like an old man, but it's like, I don't know if anybody do you follow Libs of TikTok on Twitter?
Sorry, Grandad, no.
Oh, mate, you got to check out Libs of TikTok. It's hilarious. It's just basically they get all the liberals, all these people who talk about ZZ and the gender construct and all that, and it's just a whole page of them. Anyway, the kind of videos that you see on there, those kids are too comfortable. They've got no struggle. They've got nothing else to worry about. So they create their own struggle.
Yeah, definitely.
Someone misgendered me. They didn't call me they when I like to be called, or they call me they when I like to be called Z.
Yeah,
If that is the biggest problem in your life at the moment,
exactly.
you are blessed.
Yeah,
you are privileged.
100%.
Definitely.
Right, and that's the thing. People are creating their own struggle because there is no struggle.
Yeah, that's so true.
There is very little struggle for us anyway in the Western world.
Yeah.
You go to Eastern Europe, you go to Africa, India, all these
they've got struggles that we can't even comprehend.
Exactly.
The West,
and there's that picture which we'll put up now, but that I sent to you guys, the one that Larry Elder put on.
Yes.
And he had well, you'll see it now, but it's all these pictures of. Did you see it? All these pictures of kids,
I'll show you now.
Romanian,
I saw,
kids in Africa mining and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then this picture of what's her name, Greta
Thunberg,
right?
Yeah.
And it says at the top, one of these kids believes that their childhood was stolen.
Yeah.
And it just hits the nail on the head.
Yeah, and in the background, isn't she on a yacht or something?
On a yacht,
yeah. It's
that's just it. But all we can do really is, focus on our immediate.
And that's not to say that just because you're living in the Western world and you've got a nice sofa in a house that you don't have your own struggles and you're always going to have internal struggles, and that's not to belittle them, but sometimes you need to try and get some perspective on your situation and think actually it's not as bad as it could be.
Never.
And I think that would help a lot of people if they actually had a bit of it's not really that bad. It could be a lot worse.
And I think this is why such minor trivial issues get blown up these days.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And this is why you hear people in the office environment, for example. So I've just transitioned into full-time plastering. Before that, I was working in office environment, and sometimes some of the issues, I think to myself, why are we, people holding grudges over someone not emptying the tea bags, and that escalating into a thread of emails, and then escalating into a meeting, and then escalating into a board meeting. Do you know what I mean? To find out who that culprit was.
It eats them away.
And it's just oh my gosh, it's so trivial. And now I'm doing full-time plastering, and I'm grafting every day. It almost allows me to overlook those meaningless things. It's what is that?
100%.
I suppose now you've got to deal with customers. What's it like dealing with customers now? Do you ever get any?
My worst customers when I did work for you, bro. You still owe me. It's a different, isn't it? But the reason I kind of touch on that is that the struggle now is that I'm grafting, I'm working. Do you know what I mean? And I'm struggling every single day, so that when I come home, all those trivial matters are no longer trivial, but also I can now enjoy a Netflix program. Yeah. Whereas, prior to it, I was working from home. It was so comfortable. I had a lot of free time to watch Netflix and do that. That has sucked the enjoyment out of it.
Yeah. And I remember when I was working at the college, And because just a bit of background, you've pretty much since you came out of uni worked for yourself.
Yeah.
You were a trader,
Mr. Entrepreneur.
Yeah, so you were a stocks and shares trader.
Yeah.
Then you
set up.
You've got your own furniture company now.
Yeah.
And so you've always worked for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But me and you, we were in the rat race for a bit, weren't we?
Yeah.
And I fell into teaching. Didn't want to be a teacher, but I was like a fitness instructor and personal trainer, and then I went into teaching. And you were a counsellor, weren't you?
Like counselling service.
And I remember years ago, it's got to be about 5 years ago now, and we were at that party in Birmingham, your mates.
Right.
We went to a party after we went to the boxing, then we went to a party.
Yeah, that Holmes is in his flat.
Holmes, that's it. And I remember you saying to me, like, just leave your job and get something going.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but it's guaranteed income every month, and I've got to pay for the bills and blah blah blah. And you were like, I think you're a bit institutionalized.
Yeah.
And you know what you do? You get really comfortable in that role, but actually at the same time, it causes a lot of discomfort as well.
Definitely.
Because, like you said, when I was a teacher and when you were a counsellor, similar roles. You go to work, you do your 9 to 5, you come home, then you're expected to carry on doing planning and work and everything from home. But no matter whether you are the guy who puts in 70% or the guy who puts 110%, your salary is still the same at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Whereas when you work for the thing I love now is I can get up in the morning, I can decide if I want to work that day or not, right? And I know that if I put the graft in, I could earn 10 grand today, but I could also earn 0.
Yeah.
But it's up to me what I want to earn. Whereas when I used to work for, the man, when I went to work, no matter how much I put in, I'm still walking away with the same as the guy who puts in 50% there.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about it. And I love that struggle now. Holding
yourself accountable every single day, aren't you?
Yeah. And any lad who talks to me now and they're like, I'm thinking about setting up my own business or whatever, I always say to them, like, nothing ever gives you more hunger than having kids.
Yeah.
So when you've got kids and you've got to put food on the table,
I suppose the only issue with that is you always kind of had a kind of you kind of had you knew you were quite, not overqualified, but you were doing a lot in the background, and you had your web design, and you were good with like computers, and you obviously you've become a really good salesman as well now, and like you had a lot of. Can everybody do that, or
Yeah.
Are there some people that are just destined to just kind of work a 9 to 5 job and get their pay salary and go home? Like, you can't say that everybody is destined.
Yeah, because I think certain people maybe wouldn't be able to handle the pressure of being self-employed, and they would, they prefer. Okay, I'm going to use this term, but following. Do you know what I mean? They prefer, having those instructions given to them and the comfort of a monthly salary, etc. And that, I think, to a certain degree, that is desirable to all of us.
Yeah.
And that's what took me so long away from, like you said, stepping away. And you boys were like a real inspiration to me, because obviously you lads, self-employed, etc. And when we had these conversations,
I remember having that conversation.
Remember we were on that walk that time, and you said the exact same. Institutionalised.
And how good has it gone for you now since you?
Oh, he smashed it.
Exactly. Like, I feel so much better stepping away. But I stepped away like 6 weeks ago now. I was ready to step away from being employed probably about 3 to 4 months ago.
You
but
check
it took me those quicker. 3 months just to psych myself up, because it was the fear of the unknown. Like,
of course.
I'm used to having X amount in my bank on that day every single month.
Exactly.
This being my bills, that's being my expendable income. Is it
feasible? And you've hit the nail on the head, because like you just said, it's not for everybody. And the thing is, what really annoys me is when you see these posts on Instagram and whatever, where they're like, sort of like working you weren't born to work a 9 to 5 and all that sort of stuff. No, because the economy needs 9 to 5ers. We need people who are gonna, go to a job, work from 9 to 5 and do that sort of stuff. What I'm saying is that what everybody should try and do is try and find some sort of a side income or working on a side project or a side hustle to just limit the amount that you have to do. So, maybe you could start working part-time, or maybe, rather than relying on your pension when you're 60, you're doing something on the side now that allows you to just squirrel away.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice, though, if we lived in a world where people could work 9 till 5 and genuinely be getting paid good salaries so that they feel happy with their jobs? Like, because obviously from job satisfaction comes from obviously enjoying your job, which is not always possible, but you also get a lot of job satisfaction if you're paid well. So the people that aren't necessarily enjoying their job, if they're getting paid well, like I don't imagine, an accountant maybe doesn't enjoy, you have to sit there doing numbers, but at least they're getting paid well. Whereas, like,
this is the argument.
Well, this is kind of what we touched on last week in terms of Jeff Bezos, and being made to pay more taxes, or maybe like being made to pay employers more. Like I worked out the other day, right? Just quickly.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos is worth $200 billion, right? So and let's say I think he's about 50 years old, give or take, right? So for every 10 years that he's been alive, he's made $40 billion, right? Yeah, that's right, isn't it? Yeah.
Quick math.
Sorry, quick math. So divide 40 billion by 10 years. Every year he's made $4 billion a year, right? Now divide that by 52. I think it works out to. Can we get this on because the math's getting hard.
Let's do this.
Every week he's been alive, he's made $769 million. Okay. He's made every week he's been alive. Now we live in a world where at some point, should we not say, actually, now you've got all this wealth behind you, you need to start paying your staff more. And now, like, should there not be some sort of protocol in place?
This is where me and you have got different views on this.
Right.
I think you're more of a, even though you're an entrepreneur and you've got your own business, you have got very socialist views on things. Whereas I'm a capitalist through and through. So I personally believe, right, whether he's made 100 trillion, whatever, he put the time in, he put the sacrifice in, he came up with the concept, right? He went years of not earning any. I mean, we look at now what he's got, but he went years of taking no salary, 90% retraces on Amazon, all that sort of stuff. So who is it who comes in and says that you have earned that? No, you haven't put a gun to anybody's head. You've earned it through the free market. Who then comes in and governs and says, right, we're going to take what you've earned?
Well, I think it would be the government that would have to do that.
And that's a very, very slippy slope you go down, because now you're inviting the government in to the free market.
But the thing is, the government does it with, like, general, staff. Like, I mean, if you're at a job, if you're a doctor and you're earning 100 grand, you're getting taxed 45-50% every year of your salary. So the government's very happy to do it with, your normal working man who has to work day in, day out. Like, it's all very well, Jeff Bezos probably put in a lot of hours, but, today, how hard is he really working and how much money is he making?
That doesn't matter.
I know that, but
put that effort in. And it's like I said to you as well last week.
Yeah.
You talk about, how much is Jeff Bezos personally paying? But it's through he's creating jobs for people, and those people are earning money, and they're putting money back into the economy, and they're putting money back into the government through taxes. So it's like, if you've got the guy there who is sitting on all this money, his accountants are legally finding him tax loopholes that the government have allowed to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he might not be paying a lot of tax, but him indirectly through his company is contributing probably throughout the world billions, right? Hundreds of billions probably in tax, through income tax, through VAT, through sales tax, through all that sort of stuff. So it's like they're happy to let him have his tax loopholes, right, and keep him happy. Because the thing is, suddenly when you start taxing the entrepreneur, they're gonna say, you know what, we'll find a country, we'll go and set up this business in a country that doesn't tax us. There's countries out there who would love to have our tax money coming in and have our contribution coming in. So they move.
See, I hear this argument a lot, but is Jeff Bezos just going to stop selling products in England, or is he going to just completely close down all operations in England just because we demand that he pays money on the taxes that he earns while operating within England? It's the same with Starbucks. They say the same about Starbucks. They'll go elsewhere or whatever, but Starbucks aren't just going to stop selling coffee. if you want to start taxing people, if you want to start saying, look, you've made such and such amount of money in the UK, you're now liable to pay tax on that money. And I know you're saying, he's earned it and but if the government can do it to, Joe Bloggs, who's a doctor, or Joe Bloggs, who's an electrician making 100 grand, not an electrician because they're probably on a business, so they can, there's loopholes that they can do themselves. Probably not to the extent of what Jeff Bezos is doing, because he's probably got the best accountant in the world. But what I'm saying is,
you can't touch on private and public, though, aren't you?
Well, but that's it. And why should there be a difference? Why should doctors be taxed 50% or 45%, whatever it is at the moment in the UK, and yet people like Jeff Bezos get away with paying literally I think they get away with paying like 3%. I just said,
that doctor, he earns 100 grand, right? And the book stops with him. So he's paying his tax on his 100 grand.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos has created a business that keeps people employed, allowing them to feed their families and keep roofs over their head. And then they pay income tax, right? So in terms of that doctor who's paying 45 grand, let's say, a year, Jeff Bezos indirectly is contributing billions a year back into the system through his employees.
The thing is,
through the VAT.
You say Jeff Bezos has created a lot of jobs, but basically what he's done is monopolised the retail industry. So if you were to actually look at what jobs he's created, he probably hasn't created, there's always been buyers, there's always been sellers. Basically what Jeff Bezos has now done is monopolised that market. And now you've got a lot of these people kind of working under the umbrella of Amazon. But think of how many jobs and how many he's also taken away. So if you were to actually kind of get a balance between the two, he probably hasn't created or got rid of jobs. He's created the jobs that he's taken away from that industry
The thing
by
is,
monopolising it.
I'm a big believer in the free market, and the free market dictates. So if there wasn't a demand for that, it wouldn't have happened. There was obviously a demand for Amazon, and these other companies couldn't compete. So they fell by the wayside. It's the evolution of everything, it's the survival of the fittest. And you going back to people getting paid their, what you say, fair wages.
Yeah.
The problem is okay, now let's say we put everybody on a universal income. We say everybody's going to earn £20 an hour. Well, at the moment there is a minimum wage, right? But the wage that you're paid determines the skill set that you're bringing to a company. So here's the thing: should a person who's flipping burgers in McDonald's, no disrespect to them, should they be getting paid the same as somebody who's doing open heart surgery?
No, but the thing is that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in some cases it needs to be circumstantial. So you wouldn't just put a doctor on the same salary as someone working Amazon. What I am saying is, first of all, there's got to be more taxation. There's got to be less loopholes for the for the super rich to avoid paying taxes. Second of all, even if you just got the top 10...
You're assuming that the taxes are getting used properly.
Yeah.
The thing is, we're paying all these taxes, right? Yeah, you go and drive on a road full of potholes.
Yeah,
the NHS isn't running at great capacity.
But again, that's a government issue. That's not an issue.
The government are having so much money coming in taxes as it is, right? And they're not using the tax money properly. They're paying themselves bonuses, expenses, all that sort of stuff. Would Jeff Bezos paying more tax actually make any difference, or would it just mean more tax for them to be able to bum us with, to take from us?
I mean, that's
use on
kind
expenses and things like that.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of decide.
What's to say that if they did start taxing the 1% and whatever, that the plebs, right, as they see us, would start seeing the benefit of that.
Now we're talking about much more deep-rooted issues, but ultimately, as it stands, the government are protecting the super rich.
Yeah,
they're abusing. They're making the poor, in a lot of cases, or not the poor, but the middle classes, pay for the majority of taxes, right? And they're not putting the money to good use. I mean, there was the whole track and trace fiasco where they, put billions and billions of dollars into this, and a lot of it we kind of haven't seen the benefits of. And it could have been done in a lot cheaper ways. Like I heard reports of companies getting started up, literally just started getting these, paying £200 for some PPE or whatever it is called. And that's obviously there's an abuse of power. So, but that's a different story.
Are you more bothered about the fact that the 1% aren't being taxed?
Yeah.
So is it more like a justice thing, or are you more bothered that that money could be being used? Because it seems to me like you got a bit of a gripe with Jeff Bezos, and you don't believe that he should be earning the money that he should be
It's
earning.
not a gripe with Jeff Bezos. It's basically there's a gripe with me. For me personally, I in my mindset, I think if I had, and I'm quite ambitious and I want a lot of comforts in my life or whatever, but if I had £10 million or maybe £20 million, that would last me for the rest of my life. I wouldn't need anything more than that. For what I need, nice car, a couple of holidays a year, decent sized house, whatever.
Mins every night.
Yeah, Mins every night. Yeah, shout out Mins. That would be enough for me. So it's hard for me to fathom that you've got these people sitting with literally $200,000 million just sat in their accounts, and they're not getting taxed as much as someone who's making $100,000 a year. I don't think that's fair. And I find it hard to kind of try and get my head around or believe that it is fair.
There's a lot of things that aren't fair.
Yeah, of course there is.
What I'm saying is, who is the person who determines what is fair and what isn't fair?
Well,
I mean, if me personally, before you start taxing Jeff Bezos and whatever, I think footballers' salaries should be cut in half. Or that person's getting. You're talking about Jeff Bezos, right? Oh, he's getting paid obscene amounts of money for not doing much now, but he's put all that effort in.
Yeah.
Well, you could say the same thing about a footballer. All a footballer does is they've done all those years of training, right, and got to where they are, and all they do now is kick a bag of wind about on a pitch. If you wanted to look at it like that, but they're getting paid.
See, I wouldn't put footballers above Jeff Bezos. I would say someone who's got. There's a difference between. The highest paid footballer is probably on about $500,000 a week, and you're talking like Ronaldo's, Messi's. Most of them, on average, probably about 50, 60k or less. Considering all the leagues.
Don't you think that's obscene?
Yeah, obviously, it is obscene.
Game that
it is obscene, but you know what? They'll be getting taxed 40 or 50% on that.
Yeah, but they'll probably have accountants that.
I'm sure they have. I'm sure some of them have.
Financial advisors.
I'm sure some of them have. But for the most part, because it's a salary earned. It's not like a business where they've got loopholes. For the most part, they will be paying 50 or 40% tax, wherever they are. Yeah. So they are paying their fair share of tax, and you can't say. Jeff Bezos has obviously been born with a mind far superior to most people on this planet, and that's in a way is a gift. It's a talent that he's been gifted from birth. Now, it's the same with footballers. You can say, all they do is kick a ball. That is a talent that they've been gifted.
Yeah, of course.
They've worked on it.
I'm just juxtaposing what you're saying. I do think footballers get paid too much. But I also think that they get paid because the free market allows them to do that.
Yeah.
There's a demand for watching footballers.
But basically, the point is they're still paying their 40-50% tax. Same as doctors. Doctors are still paying their 40-50% tax.
But again, if you added up all the tax that the footballers pay, I bet you their tax bills don't add up to what Jeff Bezos contributes indirectly by employing all these people.
I think we're going around in circles.
I think it's very clear.
But we can go about this later, and we've touched on some good points.
Rikhi is a fan of eBay and not Amazon. So
I'm just a fan of
shop at eBay.
I think we live in a world where you're always going to get people that are far more gifted and far less gifted. People that are born with disabilities.
Sorry, did you point at me though?
I just pointed at you.
Gifted, and you were there far less gifted.
But so you're always going to get, and that's just the way the world is. You're going to have people that are born with, disabilities, etc. I feel like as a society, if you want to live in a world, and this obviously, there's ins and outs of this, that the government's not spreading the wealth properly, whatever. But if we could live in a utopia where we have everybody who's just level-headed.
Sound like Russell Brand.
Yeah, well, maybe I am. But so everybody's just kind of level-headed enough to think, actually, let's all just do our best to try and, have a bit, like, obviously there's got to be taxes and there's got to be rewards for, doing better and whatever and trying harder and whatever. But I think there could be more of a meeting point between having the super rich up there and, the really, really poor, down there. And I think taxing the super rich and making sure that wealth is distributed a little bit better would go some way to try and bridge a gap. Even if we could just bridge it a little bit. We're never going to get it perfect, but if we could bridge it a little bit, I think that would be a good thing.
I'll say my final piece.
Yeah.
And I think we actually both agree, right? The difference is you're looking for the government to be the saviour. You're looking for the government to basically tax these guys, and then you're trusting the government to do something worthwhile with that money. I believe what you're saying. I do think it's obscene that Jeff Bezos got what he's got. But you're assuming that Jeff Bezos isn't doing anything good with that money. He gives to a lot of charities. He helps out a lot of foundations. And when you start looking for the government to come in and make the decision as to where you're meant to place that money, that's a very, very slippery slope because you're inviting them to come into other areas which is what people want now since this COVID thing. They want the government to take more, of a grip on things, and that's because we've seen how incompetent they are, right? I think I agree with what you're saying. I think the elites do need to give something back, but they need to come up with that on their own. They need to make that decision on their own.
And again, in an ideal world, that would be, but they're not doing that enough. And I think.
But how do you know? You don't know what Jeff Bezos is.
Well, I mean, I read articles about. Yeah, I know, and I read these articles. Jeff Bezos has just given 18 million to his charity, but it's insignificant in the grand scheme of just how much tax is avoided. And a lot of these foundations are actually set up to avoid paying taxes. There's a trick where you set up these charitable foundations to avoid paying taxes.
I know that, yeah.
So a lot of it is just for bravado, just as, we're reading, Jeff Bezos giving £18 million to a charity, but really, compared to what he's kind of avoided in taxes, it's insignificant. Really, it's just a gesture. But anyway, we've gone off on a bit. You like a little twins between mum and dad.
Have I got to go with Chris for the weekend or Rikhi? I think we should put it to the audience. Who's the next Prime Minister?
Well, listen, comment below.
Chris or Rikhi? Who do you want?
Comment below on what you think. Are you more with Rikhi, where you think the 1% should be taxed and it should be up to the government to then distribute it? Or are you more along my lines, where it's, the free market should just take care of itself, and people should choose what they want to do with the money that they've legally earned?
And let's emphasise...
Or third choice, do you want me to sink even more into the pillow?
But also, let's emphasise, there's no right or wrong in... When we're talking about things today... It's open discussion, and everything else we've touched on as well. They're just our points. You might have different opinions.
More of this needs to be able to happen. That's the problem these days. People can't have differing views but still be, civil with each other. It's like, if you think of a view that's different to mine, I have to immediately hate you. Rather than, let's have a discussion. Okay, there's going to be things that we agree on, which I think there are things we agree on there. And there's going to be things that we disagree on. Okay.
We've had many discussions where us lads have had differing opinions, but at the end of the day, we can still remain friends.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what's important to promote at the moment, because there's a lot of your opinion differs to mine, so you're now my enemy.
And if that opinion differs, we can
still all get on. We can still all break bread.
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily make you a racist or a socialist. Or I don't put myself in the category as a socialist. I know you said I've got socialist values.
No, socialist values.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I have got socialist opinions, but I'm not a socialist. You
can't be a socialist because you're an entrepreneur.
Because I'm an entrepreneur. So I just feel like, and also I think it's good not to put people in categories as well. It doesn't have to be left or right. It can be actually, I believe that about this, but I also believe that
about that. And you can have floating values. I can have some left values, some right values, whereas, again, people just want to put you in one category. You're either left or right.
It's like being back at school and you were either a grebo, or you were a trendy, or you were
or you were part of the ruthless crew.
And on that note, I think that's where we end it.
Cool.